Hello, everybody. My name is Pastor Phil Moldenhauer. I serve at Our Redeemer Lutheran Church on the southwest corner of Madison. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you our exciting new plan to put into place a kind of perpetual mission starting machine for Madison and Dane County. We're calling it WELS Mission Madison. In this video, then, I'm going to be talking about how we hope to start, ultimately, something like 4 to 6 or even more new congregations in Dane County. And I'm going to be talking about why we think we need to do that, how we need to do that, and I will be honing in specifically on our first goal and priority, which is to plant a church in the urban core of Madison in 2024. That's where we're going to start. We're going to start with this goal. Ultimately, we think that we need to start more churches in Dane County, but to begin with, we've targeted the urban center of Madison, those areas of Madison where the population density is increasing. If you go downtown, all you need to do is look around and you see the big cranes everywhere where they're wiping whole city blocks and putting up multi-story units of housing, apartments and condos, and the like. We've identified a couple possible locations for this church, all of which fall within that kind of urban core of the city. We've looked at the Hilldale area west of downtown, the South Park Street corridor, which is slated for redevelopment, and that redevelopment is already creeping to the south towards the Beltline. We've also looked at the East Wash corridor, which a lot of it has already redeveloped. We want to get a church somewhere there where the largest and densest population increases are occurring in our area. So that's our primary goal here, is to start a church there in the urban core of Madison, and after that, then hopefully to continue starting more congregations and sites all around our county. Why do we want to do this? Well, first of all, because Jesus told us to work while it is day. I know I hear a lot of Christians who feel like the Christian church is losing ground here in America, and I understand that that can be a frightening or worrying thing. Maybe you've heard the saying that it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. That's what we want to do here. We realize that we could sit around and wring our hands and be all worried and frightened, or we could say, it's still day, there's still time, and there are people here who need the light of the gospel. And as long as Jesus has given us time to work, we want to do his work while it is still day. Now, why do we think that we really need to get going on this effort, and why do we think that ultimately we need more than just one new congregation in Madison or Dane County? The reason is because the harvest is plentiful and it continues to increase by the day. I have a chart here from the Greater Capital Region Planning Commission that back in 2020, they projected that the city of Madison's population in the next 30 years would increase by about 88,000 people. They also projected that all of the surrounding suburbs, if you add the growth in all of them up, Sun Prairie, Fitchburg, Middleton, Waunakee, so on and so forth, would amount to about the same, another 90,000 people or so. So that their projection is that Dane County over the next 30 years would grow by about 200,000 people. That's a lot. And it makes Dane County the top numeric growth in the state of Wisconsin. More people are moving here than anywhere else in the state of Wisconsin. But it's actually even more than that. In the first 3 years since this was released, the population has actually increased by more than the projection. So that the City of Madison's Urban Planning Department released a report this summer in which they said that their new projection is for Madison's population to increase by about 115,000 people. That is to say that by 2050, the population of our county may grow by 250,000 souls. That's a lot of people moving into the area. We need a lot more churches to effectively reach out to all the people who will be moving right into our backyard. There is indeed a plentiful harvest. Who are these people who are moving to Dane County? We could do all sorts of demographic studies, and we might assume that people moving into downtown Madison, for example, are young urban professionals, so on and so forth. What I want to highlight and focus is just the kind of shift that we are seeing here in Madison. I have a chart here from Pastor John Hine, who works in our Synod's administration. And I want you to notice that last category of the unchurched, the way that it's shifted in 40 years from 1980, where virtually everybody at least had been exposed to the gospel, had heard the name of Christ and what he's done for us, to almost 20% in 2020. That is to say that there's a whole generation that's grown up whose parents left the church and who have simply never heard the gospel, don't know about Jesus or what he's done, or have unformed and unrecognizable views of really what Christianity or the church is. And I don't think I would surprise anybody if I told you that Madison tends to lead the way when it comes to statistics and things like this. So, in other words, the fields are ripe. There are a lot of people in our city who need to hear the gospel, who need what we have. That's a really good reason for us to want to start new churches. What's our plan? We know that the only way anybody is brought to faith is by the Holy Spirit working in their heart, and that the Holy Spirit works through the preaching of the gospel and the administration of the sacraments. So that our goal is ultimately to open up a whole bunch of new places in our county where people can encounter the gospel, hear it preached, and also receive the sacraments. We know that we have to do a lot of planning and footwork and legwork, and that's not unimportant. But at the end of the day, the only thing that is going to make a new congregation go is not our might, nor our wits, nor our smarts, our planning, but rather the working of the Holy Spirit. So that's our plan. And in that regard, my first ask for you is to please add our efforts to start new congregations to your prayers. Your prayers really do matter and make a difference. And it's a way that all of us can actively be involved in reaching out to the unchurched and to people who haven't heard the gospel in our community. We do need people. Jesus told us that we are the ones who would be his witnesses, and we are actively recruiting something like 20 to 30 committed people to form a core group for this new congregation that's going to be planted in the urban core of Madison. If you remember in the book of Acts, when St. Paul got to the city of Philippi, he went looking for a place to preach, and he wound up on the riverbank. And on that first Sabbath he was there, he met a woman named Lydia. Lydia and her household, they were in the Philippian congregation from day one. We know later on that this Philippian congregation was near and dear to Paul's heart. I think it was just such a neat thing for Lydia to be able to look back and say, I was there from the very beginning. And this is my second ask for you. Pray and consider, might you be there on day one and be part of a group who would be able to look back and say, we were there when this congregation was born. The picture here is from the first service that was held in Mount Horeb at Good News Lutheran Church about 10 years ago. And if I count in the picture correctly, it's something like 24 souls plus Pastor Nathan Strutz. That's the core group that started Good News Lutheran Church, and that core group has grown substantially, as you can see in this picture, at the dedication of their church building in February. People who join the core group are in for a real treat. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be setbacks. It's going to take resilience. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a really neat time that somebody who joins the core group might look back on and say, wow, that was really special to be part of this effort. Sometimes we might think that in order to be part of a core group, you need to be a totally outgoing or extroverted person or something like that. And I want to assure you that that is not necessarily the case. What we need ultimately are committed Christians who are going to say, yes, I'm all in on this effort to start a new congregation. I will be there every Sunday, and I know that I'm going to have some role to play because, of course, there aren't many people in a core group of 20 to 30. So people who are willing to roll up their sleeves, do some work, but more importantly than anything else, simply be there week after week. That's going to make all the difference in the world. So my second ask for you is to pray and consider whether you might be somebody who would like to join this effort. We do need finances, and as it pertains to the finances, we put together a three-legged stool to support this mission effort. There will, of course, be offerings coming from the people who join the core group. Here's what I'm really excited about. We are going around to area congregations, and we are looking for area congregations to commit to supporting this mission for 3 years at $40,000 a year. If we get about 10 congregations all putting into their budget a couple $1,000s, we can achieve this goal, and it's going to make a really good and important and meaningful difference in getting this mission started and off the ground. And our hope is that then after the first 3 years, the congregations will just continue to keep this in their budget, and we'll be able to shift those funds to starting the next congregation. That's our plan and our hope in terms of making this a perpetual mission-starting machine. And I already am hearing really positive feedback from church councils that I've been visiting with, so I don't think it's going to be too hard to reach that goal. And I think it's a really unique and neat opportunity for our congregations in the area to all pull together and say, hey, we're all on the same page, we're all on the same team, we want more churches, we want more people to hear the gospel, and we're going to pitch in and help. We are going to be putting in an application to receive subsidy from WELS Home Missions. And WELS Home Missions is currently in an effort to start 100 new churches in 10 years, and we are hoping and praying that this Madison congregation is going to be one of those. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we look at the timeline. So rest assured that leaders in the area congregations are hearing this, and we are asking in their budgets for next year, beginning in July, that they would pledge some dollars to help support this effort. Here's the timeline. We are currently in that recruitment phase. The big date to circle and keep in your mind is November 19th. It's a Sunday, and it's a Sunday evening, 6:30 p.m. There's going to be the first organizational meeting for our new congregation. That's going to take place at Wisconsin Lutheran Chapel. Anybody who is at all interested in this effort, even if you're saying, yeah, I'm really excited about this, but I'm not in a situation to be in the core group, you're invited and welcome to that November 19th meeting just to hear about where things are going and where we're at. At that November 19th meeting, we will be seeking to establish who is all in and to get those names of that core group recorded and down, because that core group is going to have a lot of work to do right away. In the rest of November, December, and January, the core group will be meeting to finalize the paperwork and the application for that mission subsidy from our synod. That paperwork will be due by the end of January. So the core group will be busy getting that all together. They'll probably keep meeting for Bible study or something like that, February, March. But in April is when our Synod's Board for Home Missions meets. And Lord willing, at that time, our mission will be approved, and that will provide the funding to be able to call a pastor for this new church. If not, then the core group will have to regroup and look to begin holding services somewhere using the resources we have in the area as we wait for another year. And we know there's a lot of requests coming in for home missions, so that is a possibility. We'll keep that core group busy as they wait. But ultimately, our hope and our prayer is that the Lord will bless this group with a pastor very soon who can get boots on the ground and get going in our work. So how can I support this effort? Number one is your prayers. Your prayers really do matter and make a difference. And I encourage all of you to keep this effort in the front of your mind. The second is to consider whether you might join the core group. We have interest cards available, and if you return one of those, it provides opportunity for you to get more information about being part of the core group. It also provides a spot where you can say, yeah, I'm all in. That's available. Those interest cards are available from the ushers or people at your congregation. And if you can't find one, you can also contact me, and I will put my contact information up here, Pastor Moldenhauer. There's my phone number and our official email for this mission planting. So thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Keep this effort in your prayers, and may God bless our efforts to reach more souls in Dane County with the gospel.